Samreen would be starting today's presentation with explaining you what Erasmus really stands for, and Fahim would be taking you through the documentation processes required for the scholarship, and then Khedija would be talking a bit about the post-selection process. What does Erasmus offer you after selection? A little bit around the interview, and what it is like to be an Erasmus scholar. So over to you, Samreen, Fahim, and Khedija. Please feel free to start the webinar.
Okay. So
Samreen,
first,
over
I
to
would
you.
like to confirm that am I audible and are my slides visible?
Yes, they are.
Okay. So I welcome you all, first of all, to this interactive session that will help you with, of course, the information, but also the psychological orientation and, debugging and demystifying the initial confusion when it comes to applying to Erasmus Mundus Scholarship. So I would just give you a brief roadmap of what makes Erasmus first. I would like to say what makes it different. How it is different from other scholarships is that you can study at max at four different European universities. And by when I say max, I mean that some programs have three universities, some programs even have two universities. So it's something that's pre-decided by the program you are applying to. And the basic eligibility, for example, is the bachelor's degree. But of course, being eligible does not mean being competitive. And my colleague Fahim will expand on how to, prepare the documents and how to prepare an application that's, help you compete against too many people that apply to the Erasmus Mundus. And the timeline, it's very important for you to, globally have a global perspective because Erasmus offers a number of master degree programs that you might be interested in applying to. For example, they open on a global level in October, and they most of them, the deadlines are in January. But there are some programs that might offer, their applications starting from, August or even September. But generally, it's October to January. And I usually advise people to start preparing or thinking about it in July because you might need to think about giving an IELTS exam, or you might need to prepare your application documents and maybe get them reviewed by us or by seniors. So you need time for that. So if you start applying in July, you have some time to give your IELTS exam maybe in October, November, so you can use the eligibility of 2 years for the next two years if you do not get selected in this cohort. And the key point is relevance. For example, when you apply to an Erasmus program, you need to think that how relevant is your background to the program you're applying to. And if you are having a multidisciplinary mindset, then you might think of uh, bringing that difference and how you can contribute to the program. But even in that, you need to be of some relevance to the program objectives or the content or how you can contribute to the program. And deciding the university and track, it's dependent upon your postmaster's goals. For example, you might need to think that, okay, you want to go into research or practice. So some tracks are research oriented and some are practice oriented. So you might need to think about that as well. And I will go into some more detail about the tracks when I go into the catalog. So then the language, your placement and career prospects depend on it. For example, you might have a consortium of universities. And if you know Spanish, you already know Spanish, you might be placed into a Spanish university because some courses are taught in Spanish. But if you know English only, you might be placed in a university that only offers English courses. So this, I advise you all to at least master one European language of the programs you are interested in applying to if they have a common, country where all the universities are located. It would help you to get into your desired universities. And a positive aspect of applying to Erasmus Plus is that some programs allow you to participate in funded EU projects. It means that, for example, in chemical engineering programs, you might be eligible to apply for, projects that might help the European Commission making sustainable construction materials. You might present a proposal which might help them, to see what potential your ideas have for their society. but it depends on the program, and you might not, be eligible if for some programs if you're already holding a scholarship. So the next important thing is shortlisting programs. Um, for this, a good idea would be directly to go into the consortium. And I added this screenshot. And one good thing about Erasmus is that it has a centralized platform, and you do not have the initial confusion of going on multiple websites to apply for the scholarship or even the masters. So it is one platform, and everything is inside that platform. And now I would just directly go into that. So I think I would try to, it's showing me an error as of now. So I'll try to directly access the, wait. So actually, it's not letting me open the catalog directly for you. And I had initially planned on showing you the exact catalog and how you can, use the link to go and select and search different programs. But for some technical reason, it's not allowing me to do that. But what you can see is here when you click on the catalog and this field of keyword, and you can just write your program uh, interest. For example, if somebody wants to apply in public policy, they would type public policy in the keyword section, and you can search the program. And inside that, you can say this would be the program website, and this would be the project website. So if you go inside the project website, you can see the details of funding, if the program is currently being funded or not. And you can also see the details of the universities that are involved in that program. And if you go into this website, it will have the financial aid options, which have the Erasmus Mundus Scholarship. And it can also include how to apply page, which has all the eligibility criteria written on that. So I apologize for the inconvenience because I cannot directly open the catalog. But I would now like to pass on the session to my colleague Fahim, who would guide you on the application materials.
Thank you very much, Samreen. I think I will start with the difficulty you faced because I was checking while you were delivering that I could actually open the Erasmus catalog. So probably
Yeah,
I'll
I can't
start with
open it
that.
now.
Yeah, no worries. So basically, if we go to the Google Chrome and let's say search Erasmus Mundus, is my screen visible? Yeah. So Erasmus Mundus catalog,
Yeah.
and then this one, you see other things can also pop up in front of you, but this should be the address, Erasmus plus hyphen plus .ec.europa.eu. If you click here, it will take you to the official website of the European Commission because Erasmus Mundus or Erasmus Plus is being awarded by the European Commission itself. And then if you scroll through, there are a lot of opportunities here, not only the masters, but all the opportunities provided by the European Commission. But for the course catalog, we search here, search the course catalog. And if you go here, you see here you go, all the program is here, 226 programs being offered. So let's say I'm from the law discipline, so probably maybe field of study, I can select here, maybe law, and I can search. And see, currently these two programs are active for law. Also, there is another way you can search it, that is probably from here. You search keyword the law and a few more masters that is particularly involving law, maybe in a broader perspective. For example, master in intellectual property and data law. So it's more of an IP rather than like pure law. So you can always search it from here. And if you want to have a project overview, so perhaps this link, so it takes you there where you can see this project was from 2020 to 2026, the program I am currently in. Now they have given a renewal, and that will be updated very soon. So what is the amount they receive for the grant and everything, summary, which universities are part of this, you can see in this map, and everything about all the partnering universities and everything. You should be finding it here. Okay, so that's something I wanted to compliment my colleague, and now I'd like to move forward with my own presentation. Right. Okay, so I'll be discussing how to crafting a strong Erasmus Mundus applications, and what are the documents you'll be needing for that, and perhaps focusing on a few documents as well, which are most important, or perhaps the most number of queries we receive regarding that. So if I present a checklist before you, so firstly, you need a motivation letter. Also, it's widely regarded as the statement of purpose. So you need to write it, and it varies across the program. It can be 500 word, it can be 300 word, it can be 1,000 word. It depends, but the ultimate purpose remains the same that we will be discussing later on. And secondly, we'll be needing a curriculum vitae or CV. Thirdly, we'll need your academic transcripts and degree certificates. So most of the programs, as my colleagues have already said, opens in November, December, and continues till, let's say, January, or perhaps open in September, October. So you need to have it in your mind that when you are completing your graduation and how long it takes for your university to deliver you the final academic transcript and degree certificates. You can indeed apply with provisional certificates, but you must have a good understanding like how long it usually takes in the bureaucratic manners in your particular university. So sometimes people are concerned that whether they will they'll be able to apply within a particular academic window, but here you know like what to have, and perhaps if you apply with a academic transcript and certificate is good, but sometimes in some programs you can also apply without a degree certificate, but given the condition that you will deliver this academic transcript and degree certificate within a particular deadline. Ideally, this deadline is somewhere near April to June. So you need to check in with your program, because as you see, there are 226 programs for Erasmus at this point, and you can always drop an email to your program coordinator. Next, number 4 is English language test. It could be IELTS, it could be TOEFL, or sometimes it's the medium of instruction from your university. If you have studied in a university in a country that is recognized as an English-speaking country, and then you get the exemption also. And sometimes you have, if you have the experience, let's say working in an English-speaking workplace for 2 years or 1 year, then you also get the exemption as well. But the traditional way or the most standard practice is English language test results, and it also, the requirement also varies across the program. So for Erasmus, normally it moves from 6 to 7 overall band score with different individual scores. Next, number 5, very important, your recommendation or reference letters. Whatever you are writing, there must be someone who are there to testify your academic qualifications, your capabilities and skills, and how you are as a person. So very briefly, maybe within a page or 2. So you will be mostly needing 2 references. Sometimes 2 are all, I mean, both of them are required from the academia, your teachers, and sometimes they ask for 3 as well in some programs. Then perhaps you can add 1 professional as well. And then in some technical programs, particularly related to the computer science one, they ask for portfolio. And also in the social science program, sometimes they ask for a writing sample. So it's not most or very common across the program, but some programs do ask about it. So you must have something prepared, maybe your previous coursework, maybe something you published, maybe something you are working on, anything you are best confident about. But quick tips would be try to submit something that is connected with the program. I mean, let's say you are applying to a medical health program and now you're submitting something on the law, that will not be very much connectable for the reviewers. So try to submit something that goes with the program. Okay, and finally, proof of residence or declaration form. This is important in a sense. Erasmus scholarship or the stipend varies across where you are situated in the world. So if you are within 1,000 kilometer of the program country, then you will have a particular amount of stipend. And if you are between, let's say, 2,000 to 3,000 kilometers, then your stipend is higher. And if you are beyond 4,000 kilometers, then you have a further more facilities. So this is something varies very slightly, but it's also important, and you can collect it from your local commissioner or the public registry. But keep in mind, it is asked normally, and you should have prepared. Personally, I struggle a lot with this proof of residence because I was aware about all first to six, but not the seventh one. So probably I thought of something that may be important to keep in mind. Next, we will be looking forward to drafting a statement of purpose. And rather than I'm sure all of you who are aspiring Erasmus Mundus candidates, you must have joined other seminars and workshops as well. You have done your research as well. But so I don't think of giving a lot of big lecture, but try to visualize it, like how your application or perhaps your letter of motivation should be. This is something that I believe plays the most crucial role. So here we have a blue circle around that I labeled as your profile. And there will be a lot of things in your profile. Maybe you are of 20 years old, 22 years old, 25 or 30. You have done incredible number of things throughout your profile. And then there is your program objective. What is your program looking forward to? Since Erasmus Mundus are multidisciplinary programs, for example, already my colleague Samreen has said that you study at least in 2 universities to 4 universities, and mostly they award a joint degree, sometimes a dual degree, and in a very, very few occasions, a triple degree, for example, in my master's. So I'm a law background student, and my master's also consists political science and international relations that I didn't have any idea at all. So basically, your application should hit the intersecting place, that zebra cross you see intersecting these two circles, your profile and your program objectives. So against the program objective, the program you're applying to, and comparing your profile against it, you need to identify what are your personal traits and your qualifications that actually connects with the program you're applying to. The reviewers are not simply interested to hear your 10-page, 15-page long CV, your whole life story. So you need to precise it, condense it within the limited space given to you, and hit in the right place will enhance your chance to succeed. And another thing that you need to emphasize, that where you are in your current state, where does your profile stand, and what your future goal is. So, and how the program you are applying to will be filling up that vacant place, how it will lead you to your desired goal or your future aspiration. So, for example, I personally want to work in the international courts and tribunals, and I tried to describe how my program, I was studying as a male law graduate from Bangladesh, and how I aspired to work in The Hague or in the Geneva, and how this program, the environment, the teachers, the whole setup, the opportunities comes with it, will prepare me and make me qualified enough to reach my milestone, my career ambitions. So there is no, I would say, standard or fixed format to write your motivation letter or statement of purpose, but they're a classic structure, then you can perhaps follow. You can start very briefly with the introduction, in a sense, which program you're applying to, for which academic window, and what's your name, where are you from, I mean, let's say your citizenship, and what you have done. You completed, let's say, bachelor's or master's, that's very briefly into 2 sentences. And then probably your motivation, like why particularly you want to apply for this program, what actually makes you fascinated about this program, and how you're looking forward to utilizing this program. So here I added a third point. You see, the understanding the program vis-a-vis the scholarship. So I see most of the candidates that I have been consulting over the last 1.5 years simply don't come prepared understanding the program. So it is very important that you perceive what your program is aiming for, what are the components it has, and what kind of future advocates or future professionals, individuals they're looking forward to prepare. So if you can understand that, your 50% of your work is done. So you simply need to have a very good understanding, and for this you need to go through the program details, and perhaps you can consult the program alumni, like what clicked for them and what didn't, and how they cracked it. And after you connect your motivation to the understanding of the program, then you put forward your support, like how your previous background makes you a strong candidate for this program. Let's say, for example, I was applying to an international law program. So my general law degree makes me eligible for that. Or perhaps that particular program has human rights specialization. So I have a human rights course in my undergrad. Or perhaps you have attended a human rights boot camp in your undergrad. Or perhaps you have worked in a human rights organization in your undergrad. So in whichever way, it's making you prepared for that. So that's where your support sections come. And then finally, you wrap up very briefly without repeating. Giving a very brief or fine conclusion. So that's what I wanted to talk about on the motivation letter. And let's have a very quick look on the CV. It's something that most of the candidates very much struggle to make forward. But we need to understand why CV is important, because this is something that represents or highlight your overall life achievements in, let's say, in a very 2 to 3 page. There is a I would say a misconception that CV must be 2 page. I would say it can be more, but the thing is, to the extent it connects. It should not be enlisting each and everything that simply is not getting connected. If you are making your CV 4 page, but still all the points are connected to your application, I would say make it 4 page. But other than that, to the extent, keep it relevant for the program. And as I said, there is no uniform rule, but a few things that should be keeping in mind: that CV should be concise and easily navigable. I'll be presenting some bad examples of CV shortly. And it should use standard fonts and font size, not too small, not too big, not some very fancy fonts, maybe Times New Roman or maybe Arial or Calibri. And it should not be very or too much colory that is not very peaceful towards the eye. So again, there is no uniform rule, but these are the components you can keep. You can start with a very brief intro of your profile, then the education and your experience, if you have some relevant extracurricular activities you have done, or maybe if you have some voluntary voluntary roles you started previously. For students who have publications or projects or patents, they can also include these right after the experience. If you have other things, feel free to customize, but this is just very basic that can be applicable towards everybody. And some very bad examples of CV that I would like to present. So firstly, you can see picture should be professional, not selfie. You can now, mostly people don't use pictures in the CV, but in fact, if you want to use at any case, it must be something professional. You should not be coming up with like random selfies and all. So please abstain from doing this sort of selfie pictures. And then you see these two CVs are very condensed. It's very difficult to navigate. Or you see a very long summary, maybe no reviewer might be interested to read in. So your summary should be, let's say, 2 to 3 lines or maybe 4 lines. So a scientific study says a reviewer perhaps invest 6 to 8 seconds in each CV. So you need to stand out your chance in that. So you should not be keeping like putting everything there and here. So, and also you see that color contrast is like hitting in your eyes. So if you start reading one side, the other side is falling outside of your attention. And if you start reading the other side, then this side is falling outside of your attention. And then there is also, you see, not utilization of the spaces. Of course, you need to make it navigable, not too condensed, but not too loose as well. So you need to come prepared with a balance here. But of course, I see my time is running, so I'll be making it very precise. And here is another one, you see, just simply listing. And I see sometimes the CV are 8 pages, 9 pages long, but you see there are a lot of vacant space living there. So what are the things you should do and what are the resources you can adopt? Of course, you should have a very good attention to details. Your grammars should be up to mark. Your punctuation should be up to mark. And for Erasmus, you must follow, at least for most of the program, the Europass CV. I'll not screen share and show you, but rather I'm dropping the link. You can take a screenshot, or maybe you can type. Just you can type Europass CV. Make sure to go into this European Union's official website. There you can put your details and they will prepare. They have a few style. And any Europass CV style is perfect for any European masters, and they mostly require for this. And lastly, recommendation letters. So there are very big confusions that from whom I should take my recommendation letters. I would say you must look into two criteria. Firstly, you should look into the fact who are the faculties or teachers who can best describe you. That should be your first criteria. And the second criteria should be then you make a rank, like who are perhaps holding better accolades. Maybe there is two assistant professors and one professor, so you need two. So of course you should go for a professor if he can, or he or she or they can describe you as good as the assistant professors will be describing you. So there is a misconception that always taking this from a professor would help you, but it will not be of any help if that person cannot describe you well and just give you a generic recommendation. Keep in mind that your friends, your colleagues are also applying for particular program, and perhaps if they give a very generalized, they have perhaps a sample or format, and they're just keeping the format as it is, just changing your name and degree and particular your identifiable information, and then they submit it for the same program, then simply you don't stand out, because in the same format, one single professor submitted recommendation for 3 or 5 people. So make sure it is personalized, make sure the person knows you well, make sure the person can describe you well, and then you make the ranking, who is better suit, who has perhaps better understanding, or perhaps who have been an alumnus of this program, or who have better publications, better international exposure, etc. And lastly, most common mistakes. I am someone who is very optimistic about the use of artificial intelligence. Of course, you should do it to help your task, to less burdening you. But I would strongly discourage to write your motivation letters with artificial intelligence or simply copy pasting someone else's motivation letter. People are kind enough sometimes to share their motivation letters with you. I personally have practiced not to share my motivation letter because it is, I think, something very personal. I can guide you, I can review it for you, but even if you manage to get hold of someone's own personal motivation letters, simply just don't copy paste it. It's a very huge mistake, and sometimes it's in the record, and it will not bring any good chance for you, and you will be just simply rejected the first phase. With that, thank you very much, and now I now hand over the floor to my colleague Khedija. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you, Fahim, for such amazing presentation. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Khedija, but I think your voice is having some sort of disturbance. I'm not sure why is that.
I couldn't hear you for a second.
We can hear you, but there is some disturbance in the voice. But please continue. I think there is some technical disturbance, maybe some audio disturbance. I don't know if it's from the laptop or is it from the Teams. But do you want to try speaking still?
So I'll try to continue, and if there's an issue, then you can maybe give me a message on chat or something, and we can see if we go on. So I will be talking about selected process and post-election experience, so where Fahim left off. So what happens after you submit your application? I'll start with a disclaimer, like a lot of the information that comes in is like
Khedija, I
programs
think,
vary, but
so
I
sorry. I think there is a lot of disturbance in the voice. I'm not sure why is it happening, so I'm not really able to hear you very clearly. It's echoing a bit. Do you want to instead perhaps switch to like a phone or something? Perhaps this is a device problem. Yeah. In the meanwhile, I can start asking questions from Samreen and Fahim, and in the meanwhile, Khedija, if you want to, you can try and switch to a phone device. All right. Thank you so much, Samreen, and thank you so much, Fahim, for those wonderful insights. Can you see me? Because I can't see you, Samreen and Fahim. But okay. So there were a couple of questions, in fact, more than that, that have come to us. So would love for them to answer, would love for you to answer them. So one of the first questions, Samreen, maybe if you could help answer is, what help you decides which Erasmus Mundus program is a right fit for you, especially when your interests overlap with more than one course? So a lot of people have
Yeah.
been asking questions around the selection of the course and how do they go about, of course, you were trying to show the catalog, but how do you go about selecting a course when you have more than one interests and then you can see courses speaking to those sort of overlapping interests of yours?
Yeah. So, for me, what helped me identify the course was the post-career prospects. For example, usually students are passionate about multiple areas, but they need some kind of direction to their passion. So, the postmaster's career prospects give that direction according to me. For
Mm,
example, I am in a program for industrial psychology, and I know that this subject offers global working opportunities despite whatever industry I can, it doesn't limit me to any specific industry. So,
mm,
having a global career prospect helped me decide my specific program. And for people who want, a research career postmasters, then they might go for a program maybe in neurolinguistics or clinical linguistics or Erasmus because those programs are more research oriented. So it really depends on what you want to do for your postmasters. Now after this program, I have the option of going into an industry position or going for a PhD both. So it has a more global career prospect. So for me, it's what allows, the program allows me to do postmasters.
right, right. That answers the question really well. Um, a lot of students are also asking about, Fahim, if you want to take that, about the IELTS requirement and the waiver of it. Is it allowed or is it not allowed? And does a university circular alone can be a proof that you have the medium of instruction as English? And does it allow for a waiver?
Well, I think I have slightly covered this during my presentation. So, yes, mostly the English language requirement is, IELTS is required, IELTS or TOEFL. But in certain circumstances, if you have prior academic study in a country that is recognized to be an English speaking country, sometimes that's waived, or sometimes if you have worked in an industry or in an organization which is fully English speaking, and later from them might also waive this requirement. But in terms of most of the global South participants, where English is not recognized as the English speaking country, so in that cases, medium of instruction is required, but sometimes they also ask that the university itself email that to the particular program coordinator. So in that case, you need to obtain it from your register office or the relevant office, and then you need to contact your contact person from within the university that, hey, this is the email address where I need to send this. So sometimes they need, I remember in Netherlands, they say they are not accepting any email communication. They needed physical courier, or sometimes they needed email is suffice as well. So it really depends on which particular program you're applying to and according to these program requirements.
Yeah, that's great. Kunsa, you had a question about the SOP. Do you want to ask a question or do you want to just put it down in the chat box? Um, The thing is that we are Kunse, can you ask your question now? I've tried to allow you the mic, but unfortunately, somehow the technicalities are not allowing me to. Oh, actually, I can see you. Kunse, can you
No,
speak now?
I think I can now. I can. Yeah, I can. Thank you, Kanu. Thank you, Fahim, and rest of the scholars. Yeah. So I had this question regarding the SOP. Last year, I applied to the Impact Entrepreneurship program of Erasmus, and the things went really smooth. Everything was like on point as per my understanding, but I couldn't make it. And I had this very detailed conversation with one of the program directors, and she said that they prioritize applicants who have prior living experience in abroad, and and some other things. So I really wanted to ask that when writing an SOP, how much percentage should be given to the personal experiences, how much should be given to the professional experiences, and how should we go about it, especially for a fact that Erasmus has very different needs, and the audience and the panel is very different as compared to the scholarships which are based in UK or USA. So these are the things that I really struggle with, and I struggled with them last time. I think somehow I made my SOP more leadership oriented and more like my personal achievement, like professional achievements and all those things, and I somehow lacked the personal element to it, because chevening and other things require more like your networking leadership qualities. So what was your take on writing an SOP? How much did you talk about the personal things, and what is the basic technique and the critical element of writing an SOP specifically for Erasmus? Thank you.
Fahim, do you want
Sure.
to take that one?
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is something, first of all, thank you very much for the question. I mean, it's a very important one, and I believe the audience needs to have this discussion. I'd like to say that I am personally someone who also struggled with this part, that to what extent I should put forward personal experience and all. But what I did and what mostly worked for me, not only for Erasmus, because I applied in 6 universities, including UK, Switzerland, and the Netherlands and Austria. And except for one, I was selected with a scholarship to all the universities. So, and this was the trick. I mean, I applied to all my SOP. So I started with a personal story that somehow led to my program goal. So for me, I can share that my program is international law, as I have already told. I started with the story of my visit to the international court as a student, and what it meant for me and what really motivated me there. And when I was supporting, like the supporting part, I said in my SOP drafting, then at that time I was also not putting forward that I know X, Y, Z, I did this competition, I have this paper, but also I was focusing on my lackings. For example, I'm someone who struggled with theories. So I mentioned this in my program and a program SOP, and I also come up with a mixed balance of personalized and professionalized. I mean, if we talk about professional, we always want to put forward our achievement, our success. But my lackings in the theory was not only solely related to international law, it was every subject I was reading throughout my life, my school, my college, my university. So theory is something I always hated, but it's a personal story that I connected there. So of course you should come up with a balance to the extent, but the whole goal should be your professional aspirations, your personal stories, that all cumulatively progressing you towards your program's objective. So that has been my approach.
Thanks, Fahim. That's really helpful. Khedija, you're back again. Do you want to try um, speaking?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you much better now.
Okay. So should I continue or
Yeah, please continue. Everybody, Khadija would be presenting on the interview, the selection process, and the post-selection process, and what does Erasmus have to offer you after that?
and I'm hoping that some of the questions that you have can be answered through this.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I know that there's questions regarding SOP and everything. And I want to start off by what happens after you submit, what really happens in shortlisting. So given the caveat that not all programs the same, but I'm going to talk generically and particularly about my program. There is a percentage that is given to all the different things. So SS have a percentage, your IELTS score, your GPA, like a lot of the things that Fahim already mentioned. All of these carry percentage, and these percentage are obviously can depend upon your program. So each of them, because they carry a different percentage, total up to make a certain score. So you may have the highest GPA, but if you get nothing on your essays or like very low score on essay, it's going to affect, because essays carry a lot of score for some programs. Similarly, some programs have higher GPA requirement and can have uh, more percentage for GPA. So all of these things get together to make a percentage, and then a short list is created for where people are invited for the interview process. And the list already Fahim talked about what are those criteria, so I'm not going to go into it, but remember that all of those things make up a percentage for each program that you're applying for. Afterwards, um, there's an interview process for most of the program, and due to the scoring before an interview process, they make a reserve list and main list. But I'll talk more about interview process a bit here as well, like what kind of questions are asked and how it can make and break you sometimes. Because you might be asked questions like, how would you manage traveling in different countries? Because Erasmus makes you travel to more than 2 countries, sometimes 2, 3, 4, already mentioned by Samreen and Fahim. Like, so depending upon what you answer, and if you say like, oh, I will never be able to manage, I don't know how to travel, these things can really affect, no matter how much of a good GPA essay you have. These kind of answers can lead to you're not being selected, because they know that that is a integral part, that you have to go through travel, visa, accommodation, moving. But your your shortlisting criteria, interview all together would end up creating main list and reserve list for each program. So main list is people who are their first preferences, who they would give the scholarship to first, and if one of them or some of them may not accept it, then there will be a reserve list that they will reach out to later on, that we could offer you if the main people or their first preferences have not been selected. There's also these rules of program countries and partner countries. And depending upon where you are from, so if you are applying for France or if you're applying for Bangladesh or Pakistan, different rules will be applied to you. I don't want to go more into it, but essentially, like, program countries are mostly in Europe or so, and partner countries are like Asia, Africa, and in those continents. And then the reason I'm describing this is because the main list and reserve list, it's not just the percentage of who is the bestest or the highest in the criteria, it's also where they're selecting you from. So they will never select like 20 people from a same country, because Erasmus is supposed to be, has a diverse audience and like program candidates. So in my program particularly, it was only 2 or maximally 3 people from the same countries were allowed. Otherwise, so it's not just the criteria of if you are the best overall, it's also about in your country, if they are accepting candidates from that and they have their preference, where do you rank in your own country in the subject field that you're applying for. So that's one of the basic, and I can see some questions, and I feel I'll go through this first and I'll come back to the questions and we'll answer that. So let's say that you did get accepted and you're on the main list, and although they would have already asked you questions in interviews, you do have to still take care of your own visa, travel, or resident permits, living, money, transport. And yes, the programs give you the documents for it,
Some of the documents are similar to what Fahim already described, but some of them are some extra documents. For visa category in Erasmus, there are three kind of visas overall. One is UK, because UK got out of Europe, and then there is a Schengen area, which is applied to 29 countries, EU member states, and then there is Ireland and Cyprus, who are still part of Europe but not part of Schengen. So depending upon what country program you're in, you may have to apply for visa depending upon what country you are in. So I was studying in UK, Ireland, and Estonia, so I had to apply for 3 different visas. But my program also had an option of Malta. So some people didn't have to apply for Schengen visa again, because sometimes you're only in a country for 3 to 4 months. But at the same time, when you do reach into a country, you have to get residence permits. And when you go through the visa process, there's a whole process for how you get that. I'm not sure if anybody wants to hit that right now, but I'll go more into how you have to find your own place, how you will travel, how do you even get to your university and the place you live, and what common documents do you need to even reach to the process of visa and travel to the country you're in. Admission, scholarship letter, CAS, confirmation of acceptance, particularly for UK, passport, degrees are some of the common documents that you would be required to apply for your visa. And you have to do all of that on your own. Yes, there's support from the program, but still have to do the process on your own. Similarly, getting your own tickets, how you're going to get to from the airport to the your place, and everything will be in that. I'm not going to go more into it for now, but I'll just continue with, and if you have any specific questions, we can discuss it later. That finally you're here, whichever country you got in. And so how are you studying and adapting in this? You will definitely have to register with universities because you are on a student visa, and you have to register with the university that you are here, and you will stay there for that time period. One of the major first things after you are done with your visa registration that I recommend that you do is figuring out your local health system. Even though insurance is in place, it's still good to know how the health system works in your given country, because it is very different. Having lived in UK, Ireland, and Estonia, very different systems. UK had NHS, their local health. Ireland, my university had a health system that I didn't even need to go outside, and Estonia had a very different system. So it's very essential that you figure that out before something bad happens and then you don't know what to do. And then understanding the new study style of the university, because each program, each university will have a different study style and different grading system. And it is very essential that you get to know that before the program instead of after or at the end, because it will affect the way you are graded and can impact your program grades overall. There are enough support systems in each university that you can ask for help with your writing, especially if you are coming from a place who does not have English as their national language. And connecting with the Erasmus group. One of the best parts of Erasmus is the other Erasmus people and all the programs that are going on. Connect, figure out all the things I'm talking about. You will find them out from them already. And obviously, there's already universities help and support already in place for international students. Do look at that if you find the time to, and I'll save more time for questions instead of my own.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you so much, Khedija. That was really helpful, I think, because it gives clarity of what Erasmus really looks like in principle when you're actually a scholar. But there's quite some questions in the chat that I would like you to address, Khedija. Some of them are asking that do they need to then take care of their own transportation costs, or is that covered by the Erasmus scholarship?
So, given the recent scholarship that we get, it is enough that you can cover your transport. There's
Oh, so
also
you
a
do
lot
need to
of,
cover it yourself.
you need to cover it yourself, but also there's enough of student discounts. Every country you almost go to, that you can be covered by that. In UK, if you have a bus system or rail card, there is student discounts available. So if you're under 22, that's different. 20, 25, and so on, very different. Similarly, Estonia, I guess there was like a, if you had the permit, residence permit, the transportation was free. And depending upon the country you are in, sometimes transport can be free or discounted. So definitely figure those out and check these out. There always some form of discount or concession for students and Erasmus people.
Awesome. That's great. Also, I think there are questions around um, how do these how does the Erasmus shortlisting actually work? Fahim, do you have an idea of how would the shortlisting work for the Erasmus program? Like, what are they looking for? Are they only looking solely at your applications, or are they looking at funding certain programs more than others? Are they looking at at like creating a balance? Because every country has their own list, like Khedija, you mentioned. You're competing with your own pool, but what is the shortlisting all about? What are the factors?
Okay. Before getting back to that question, also I'd like to mention that with Erasmus, I mean, there is also this ESN card, Erasmus Social Network card, with which you can get a significant amount of discounts. Like you can travel on Ryanair on 10% discount and carry like 20 baggages per, I mean, 4 trips per year. And also there are a lot of ESN. I mean, every city you have a ESN community. So like, for example, I am now in Estonia, and now they are organizing a trip to see the aurora, the northern lights. So it's very cheap. It's not like very expensive. Normally it's cost like 1500 euro, but we can now, let's say, go for like 500 euro. So ESN cards provides us a lot of discounts. Now getting back to the question you asked me, I'd say it's a multifaceted system of choosing, because as Khedija mentioned, that Erasmus has this rule that not more than 3 people from a same country will be selected for a particular program. And in terms of shortlisting, I think already she mentioned that there are certain percentage allocated for your academics, certain for your experience, or maybe your writing experience or working experience, your motivation letter, your references also carry 10% to 20% of mark. So it's a various combination. But then again, let's compare. You got 75 and still you cannot be selected because there are 5 people more who scored more than 75 from your country, and then there are someone who got 68 and still gets selected. It's for the Erasmus diversity, and it's not a discrimination, rather it's equity, because it also gives them the leverage to assess someone from coming from the same academic system. So that's how it's done. But for example, also in my program, I see from each country there are only 1 people. And for South Asia, this is not written anywhere, but I followed this pattern every year. Only 3 people from South Asia. So sometimes it's 2 from India, 1 Bangladesh, 1 Nepal, one India, 1 Pakistan, but never more than 3. So they have these also this regional dynamics as well to make this program really diverse.
Yeah.
So a lot of factors actually depends.
Right. So there's no sort of like strict cutoff for the GPA.
There is actually for some programs, but as I believe Samreen has already said, just merely meeting the criteria is not. For example, in
Is
my
not
program, it was
enough.
like 3.2, but I haven't seen any of the colleagues less than 3.7 in my program.
Okay, so
So
should people still apply if they are below the cutoff?
yes, because I would say, for example, I am slightly lower than 3.7, but I had the confidence that my work experience is a well backup for me. Because, for example, one can have, let's say, 40 out of 40 for academics. Let's say they have a 3.9 or 4, but then again, no work experience. But maybe you have 3.5, a bit of work experience, a bit of competition, some awards you receive, that actually complements you. So I would say if you meet the criteria, apply for it and let's see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Samreen, I know you have to leave for another meeting, so would you have any last moment tips or myth breakers for our audience that you really want to like speak about? Because, you are currently doing the program yourself. What would you advise people or aspirants who are wanting to apply for Erasmus, or any last minute advice or tips?
Yeah. Yeah, so I would like to expand on what my colleague Fahim said, and you guys were talking about the GPA. So I also know somebody who has a 2.9 CGPA and he's an Erasmus scholar. So I think GPA should not discourage you from applying. You should still apply, but then you have to, as Fahim said, complement your profile in other ways to account for different percentages that are given to different aspects of your application. For example, either you have contributed to excellent research projects, or you have some good work experience, or maybe you have been in leadership and volunteering positions, because that's something very highly valued by programs related to law or even public policy. So these are the things. But then, of course, you have to keep in mind that you are competing against so many people. So you need to, make up your application. And the second thing is that the most important thing is that applying to Erasmus is, I would say, honestly, not as difficult as it feels initially. Because if you talk about other scholarships, you might have to, get a professor acceptance or list down universities yourself. But Erasmus does most of the part for you. You have a platform, you have all the universities listed, and mostly you have to make the choice for your selecting the track or even the university in your final semester. So, and by then you're mature enough to, because you're already inside the program and you can make better choices. And lastly, the motivating factor is, as somebody already pointed out, that Erasmus is a big community. It's not only just a scholarship, it's a community that you become a part of. It's supplemented by, of course, us, but when you become a part of the program, you are part of a network of scholars, of global scholars, and then you learn a lot from them and you teach them as well. And Erasmus welcomes diversity like anything, because if you think that you are different from others, or there are some aspects of your application, but you never know. I know some people who, in their motivation letters, wrote that they can paint well. Even they attached pictures of their paintings and pictures of their pets. Some people I know wrote about stories of their conflicted family lives and how they want to apply to the program to improve their life and things like that. They wrote nothing about the research and things like that. So you just have to be very genuine and authentic, but you have to get your documents reviewed by the seniors, alumni, and even us, because of course there are some formal requirements, but you can be literally be yourself. And because I was talking to my supervisor and he was telling me about all the kind of motivation letters people write, so it welcomes diversity with open arms, and you are welcome, but of course you have to follow a structure and some guidelines to get there.
Yeah, that's very, very helpful, Samreen. Of course, somebody has asked if their transcript is not including credits, or is not in the same way that the Erasmus Mundus Scholarship
Yeah.
requires it to be, would it be a deterrent in the
Yeah,
application
I would like to
process?
share something, because I'm one of them. I do not have a honors degree, a 4 years bachelor's degree, which has like all the GPA requirements which the Erasmus needs. My bachelor's is of 2 years, associate bachelor's, and my result was in percentages and not in CGPA. And then I had a 2 years like an associate master's. What I did was, this is true for every country. You have an education commission, an office in your country. From that, like in Pakistan, we have the Higher Education Commission, but in your country, you might have an education commission that deals. So you have to get an equivalence certificate from that commission, which justifies that your like education is equivalent to a 16-year education, which is the formal requirement for the Erasmus, and that you are eligible to apply. And that certificate might have those credit requirements or things written that might help you. So I got an equivalent certificate. So if you have your results in in a format that's not an ECTS format or cannot be translated to an ECTS, you usually get this equivalent certificate. But it's also possible that you might need to get your credentials evaluated by an external, evaluating service, for example, the World Education Services, WES. So it's a process that you get to learn about along the way when you apply, because these are the things that might change according to the requirements or the regulations of your own country. So yeah, you have to do these things to make up for your difference in the credential evaluations that you have.
Of course. Thank you, Samreen. Thank you so much for your insights. And if you have another meeting, please feel free to leave the meeting. Thank you so much, Samreen, for everything. But I'll move on to our other speakers, Khedija. We have a really important question actually in one of the questions that was asked, not in the chat box, but it was circulated to us before. And they raised something about diversity and inclusion, and particularly regarding cultural or religious expression. For example, wearing a veil. And they said, how inclusive have you found the Erasmus environment to be in terms of allowing people to wear a hijab, for instance, or to allow cultural expression in the way they want to? Is that accepted? Is that encouraged? How is the Erasmus community inclusive, and how much inclusivity is there within the community?
So again, with the caveat that obviously Erasmus programs are different, but from my experience, from like having studied in my countries, I have two class fellows who wore hijab. I've had, I think, almost 6, 7 Muslims in my class, Erasmus scholars. And in UK, Ireland, Estonia, they all wore their hijabs. They were, whenever we had a community group or event, there was very focused effort that the meat would be halal, because we have few class fellows who only eat halal meal. Or similarly, if there were any programs happening, they would ask us like what kind of food, and there would be halal preference. And so again, they wore their hijab throughout their Erasmus program. There was food restrictions or anything else, it was all accepted by Erasmus. It was never an issue. Yes, depending upon sometimes the country you are in, you may face something from general public, because countries you can't really control. But I will speak from the perspective of Erasmus that we have experienced. It was never a question of that somebody has to take their hijab off, um, or if food is not to everybody's preference or things like that. So in that aspect, I would say Erasmus is, from my experience, like they are very supportive in that regard. So you are allowed to wear your hijab, veils, anything you want. And I know some of my class fellows who wore hijab are still here. Uh, so uh, it's not really, particularly in Ireland, we had a whole campus area where all the meat was just halal. So if all of the Muslim students would go to that campus food area to eat, because that's one of the main things for Muslims. But yes, I think
Yeah.
we don't worry too much about that.
Yeah, that's really a relief to hear for a lot of applicants. Fahim, a question for you, perhaps. Um, so a lot of people are asking about, do the chances increase if you're fresh out of undergrad? Is it okay if they have another master's already, and if they are applying for another master's, should they mention that? Should they not mention that? Would they decrease their chances or increase their chances to have a master's before? Then also people have talked about having a 3-year undergrad degree, and if that is enough to be eligible, or should they do a 1-year distance learning course, or like 1-year diploma course or something to compensate for it? Like how does being a freshly out graduate versus one with work experience versus one with masters affect your application, um shortlisting? Would that strengthen it or not? Like, how does these things work?
Okay, I mean, it's a very important question, and I think it's something, a myth breaker, I would say, from Bangladesh perspective, because there is this common phenomena that you must earn your bachelor's as well as your master's from the country, and you must have a few years of work experience before you aim for a top-notch university, be it Bridge or any other European, American, or the UK university. But perhaps my case was I was awarded the scholarship even before my provisional certificate. So I applied with my academic transcript, and when I was in my final semester before my taking my exams, so my results come out. I was waiting for my provisional certificate, and before that, I was awarded with the condition that I need to submit my provisional
That was your
certificate.
bachelor's degree or your master's?
My bachelor degree. So I completed
Okay,
my
okay.
bachelor's last year. Yeah.
But does it matter if you have a master's and you're again
Yeah,
applying for a
I'm
master's?
coming to that point because I know a few fellows from earlier cohorts who indeed had a master's from Bangladesh. But again, the core concept is as long as you can elaborate or explain or justify that you need another master's or this master's for reaching to a certain goal of your life, you are always welcome to apply. So it can happen. I was also looking at questions that someone has a background in environmental science, can he or she apply to hydrology or something? So as long as you can connect and justify, you can apply. As long as you have a story, you have a cause. So no matter if you have a master's behind prior, but it should not be in a sense that I have seen people coming up with this approach, not everyone, but a few, that I already have a master's, so that's why I should get a priority. But this is not the case for Erasmus. Yes, of course, for Chevening or Commonwealth, as you will know better, that they do ask for like 2 years of experience after that undergrad and all. But the thing is, for Erasmus, it's a fantastic opportunity. Also, we don't have any conditions that we get necessarily need to go back to our country, like the condition you have in Chevening and Commonwealth that after completing you need to go back at least for 2 years. So Erasmus doesn't impose any conditions on you like that. So I would say neither a freshman nor a master degree holder is discouraged for application. As long as you can connect, you should apply. You are muted, I think.
Oh, yeah, that's great to hear. Somebody has been asking about an APS certificate that is required for certain institutions in Germany. And they're saying that getting it from at such not short notice is very exhausting, both logistically and financially, and almost impossible to get before the program deadline. And what do they do? Because the university has not responded to them, because in some cases the university allows them to submit it after the admission. Do any of you have an idea about the APS certificate? Fahim or Khedija?
I
not
don't.
German.
Yeah, I do not have
Okay.
a very strong knowledge on these, but I know people who struggle with these. It's a very frustrating situation. But of course, in these circumstances for Germany, I mean, you will only need it. Let's say, like, let me give an example. For example, my university was in UK, Barcelona, and Estonia. So for UK and Estonia, they never asked any physical document from my end. So just send your documents, which is also, I think, I should have said it before, that at least from Bangladesh and also from the other countries, if I'm not wrong, that you need to get your academic certificates attested from your Ministry of Education, first from your university, second from your same document from the Ministry of Education, and thirdly from your Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So when you start attest these things, then you need to send the scan copy. So for Glasgow and University of Tartu, it was sufficient for me. But for Spain, I needed to present the physical copy to them. I had to submit it. I had to carry it all the time. And very interestingly, for Spain, the king himself signs all the certificates. So every 2 years he signs. So let's say if you're graduating this year, will not your certificate this year. So next year he will be signing, and then your certificate will be delivering to you. So there are some these sort of traditions and system in different countries. So I can connect this Germany one with this as well. So you need to see, I mean, you don't need to be worrying if your home country, home university is not in Germany. So you only need to worry about it if your main program country is in Germany. But let's say Germany is just your mobility. For example, I was also in Germany for a very limited time as part of my program. I didn't need anything. So I had a short diploma within the program in Germany. So that's why if any program country is concerned, only then you should be thinking about it, and you need to unfortunately go through this process. But if it's like a partner country, it's like other semesters, then it should be fine.
Right. Awesome. I think we're just nearing the end of the webinar, which has already run a little bit over. But Khedija, perhaps you can answer this last question and then we'll open it for both of you to give some last minute advice. But do you think applying early has higher chances of getting accepted, or it doesn't matter? Khedija, do you want to take that?
Yes. So, through my experience, like from what I've heard from the uh, obviously after you're done with your Erasmus, you meet your program directors and people, and you have out of curiosity asked these things. From what I know, after the deadline, they see through the applications all in the same way. It's not like if you submitted once, they will look through it. They have a system, and after the deadline is closed, they look through the applications, and like I said, which country you are from and what's their criteria for shortlisting, those things will matter way more than if you apply early or later.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, Fahim, Khadija, this is the section where you just give your concluding tips or advice for people wanting to apply to Erasmus. What do you think can make this stand out, their applications? What is it that worked for you? What is it that you really want to tell them? Because they each of our participants are now working actively towards their Erasmus scholarship applications. And like we all know, the competition is really tight from South Asia. Maybe 3 or 4 people would be selected. So, what is it that they should really do? Like, what is your advice? Fahim, starting with you.
I'd like to quote a very favorite sentence of mine, which is climb every mountain and forge every stream. Okay, so I would say don't get discouraged. I know it also takes a lot monetarily preparing for IELTS, sitting for IELTS, and um, bearing the applications cost. But if you play a bit smartly, sometimes there are education seminars and conferences of several UK countries, and if you attend those, that gives them a vibe that you will be perhaps applying to their university. They give you coupons or discounts. Like it's a very common thing in South Asia. At least in Bangladesh, you get, let's say, 50% discount on your IELTS application. So you just need to play a bit smart. You don't need to necessarily apply to those universities, but utilize it. Also, I remember I applied, I emailed to all the programs I was applying to. Hi, I'm coming from a global South country. Can you please waive my application fee? It's simply overburdening for myself. And trust me, I have received tuition waiver for all the programs I applied to, except for one, from the one from Geneva. So every program I applied, the application fee was waived. So I'd say just look for the opportunities. A lot of people will say a lot of things. A lot of people will discourage you that you are simply not good enough. You cannot do it. Nothing will nothing you can do good for the society, and etc. etc. But once you are here, the experience is mesmerizing. So give it a try. Don't get puzzled with all those discouragement, because once you get this, all those taunts will just simply turns into claps. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Fahim. That's really well said. Khadija, do you have anything to add?
I'll just say this one thing because I've from my class fellows and things we've discussed later on Erasmus, that after it's kind of similar to what Fahim said, but after you have applied to for one program and you get rejected or you get reserve list, um, don't just lose hope. A lot of us have applied to the same program over the years again and again, and we have heard later on from our professors that, oh, it was the consistent, oh, this person applied 3 times, so we decided, like, you know what, let's, and they're consistent with that. And sometimes that's what takes you through the sometimes the consistency of something, because they have the records that who applied in which year and how many times and what different did thing they did this year, and those things really matter. And sometimes those are the things that can put you above other people. Sometimes people will give up after the first try, but applying, if you are sure about you want to go in education or law or whatever, and there are very limited programs for each of the topics, so like keep applying. One of those years somebody will just appreciate your consistency, and you don't know, you will get that. I've heard these stories, so that's what I'll leave everybody with.
That's really important information. Yes, be at it, be consistent, have faith. You never know when is the year which is your year, and you'll get through. Thank you so much, Fahim and Khadija, both of you. I mean, you've been excellent in sort of like explaining your experience, sharing it with the audience, and answering their questions so patiently. I mean, we're really grateful for both of you to be with us at the application lab. And for everybody whoever is in the audience today, they both are our mentors as well. So, which means if you want last minute look at your applications, if you want anybody to review your documents before you send it through, or if you want any personalized guidance of any sort, please reach out to us at info@theapplicationlab.com. I'm going to write that in the chat box now. But we'll be happy to sort of connect you to them, whether it's Samreen, Khedija, or Fahim. Three of them are our mentors. Please keep following the application lab and keep supporting each other through the community space that we have built for you, because I think there is power in coming together and motivating each other. And three of them are also in the group. So if you have any questions, we can take it there as well. But please don't bombard them with a lot of DMs because they are doing their full-time degrees as well. So please be mindful of that. But please, if you want to connect with them one-on-one, reach out to us and we will help you connect to them. But thank you everyone for being a part of the application lab and for coming to today's session. We would be hosting another session very soon in 2 weeks' time on the Gates Cambridge Scholarship. So if any of you want to apply for the master's or PhD program at Gates, including both you and Khedija, both Fahim, Samreen is not here. Khedija is already doing a PhD. So if you want to apply, please feel free to attend that session. We will have 3 exemplary Gates scholars and me doing that session, especially tailored for all of you. So really welcome you to that space as well. We would try and upload this recording on our YouTube channel, which we have just started. So we're very new. We also don't know the technical nitty and gritties of that, but maybe you will find that recording there and you can view it at your own pace and time. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Khadija. Thank you, Fahim. It really means a lot for both of you to be doing this for us. All right,
Tanupriya,
see you
would you
all.
like to mention about the link I've shared in the meeting?
Oh, yes.
Sorry, chat. Yes, please.
Is that the mentorship enrollment form?
Yes.
Okay. So anybody who wants to get personalized mentorship, of course, you can write to us at the email address that I had given. But if you want to save your time and get the brochure straight away with all the information, the best is if Vishal has shared a link right below. If you can fill this form, you will get all the details of our mentorship program, which will have all the details of the various offerings we've got and the prices and what sort of sessions you can take with us. And you'll get all details there, and then you can take it forward from there. I hope that we've covered all the information that we had to, but if there's anything that I've missed out, Vishal, please feel free to
No,
point
I
that
think
out.
you covered everything out. Thank you so
Okay,
much, Kanupriya,
great.
you've done it. And thank you so much, Fahim and Khedija, for your time today. Means a lot.
Yes, you
And
both
thank you
are really
everyone
great.
for joining us today as well.
Yes, and I'm sorry I started the meeting late, so a lot of you had to join in later because I had started speaking, and a lot of you were still in the waiting list. So sorry about that, but you will find all of that information in the recording. So hopefully you will be able to see that. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Khadija. Thank you, Fahim. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you very
Bye.
much. Have a good weekend, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye.